So it's funny, I wrote that do your best chapter for courage originally, and then the Jimmy Carter one.
Yeah.
And then I moved it to this book. Now that I'm thinking about how I want to structure part one of the Justice book, about the sort of personal code of conduct and ethics or whatever, I'm wondering if that actually fits better there.
Maybe it does work better in Justice because it gives you an opportunity to be, one of those few opportunities to be sort of like a little bit rah-rah.
Sure.
I guess is it's like you matter, your contribution matters, what you do in this world matters, not just to you and your community, to the world, and you are robbing the world of what you can contribute by not doing your best every day.
Yeah, I mean, it basically, the whole chapter comes down to the, did you always do your best? No, and then it says, why not? That's the thrust of that story. The whole book is about that, but that's not really about self-control. It's more of a principled thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to move into Justice for all that it allows you to do in speaking to the reader.
It just feels like that would fit really well in part one of Justice, which is like, you have this code of values or principles. One is that you always do your best. You don't care about the results, but you do your best because you give all of what you have to whatever it is that you do. So basically I'm saying there's like sort of multiple kinds of justice, right? Part one is personal justice. Regulus keeping his word. He said he would come back. He came back even under penalty of death, right? So like the first part of the book's all going to be sort of examples of kind of that, like personal honor, personal ethics. And the main character, the main example of that is I'm doing Harry Truman. Which, by the way, remember you found that stuff for me about Truman and Marcus Aurelius a while ago?
Like his reading of meditations and whatnot?
Yeah, you found that in that old book. It was like an oral history of Truman.
Yes.
You have to read that book. It's fucking incredible.
Okay.
It's by Merle Miller and it's called Plain Speaking. But anyway, so Truman is sort of the example of like personal rectitude and responsibility and ethics and all of that, right? The next part of the book is going to be about communal, so like the sort of the common good. And I think I'm going to do something I've never done before, which is instead of telling one singular story, like picking one person that embodies that, I think I was going to tell the story. I was going to start with the abolitionist movement and then the women's rights movement, right? Like it's gonna sort of tell like a bunch of different stories, if that makes sense. Like kind of do like this passing of torches rather than one singular person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Obviously the Women's Hour is a book I'm gonna use, and then I'm gonna use this book called Bury the Chains, which is about the abolitionist movement. But I was wondering if there might be like one or two other books that I could read that would help with that, if that makes sense. So I was just wondering if you could find me some good recommendations to read. I'm wrapping up the intro, which is good, and then trying to do a lot of reading. So I'm technically on vacation, but I'm not on vacation from the book. I'm on vacation from doing the stuff that I don't want to be doing. The book being what I actually want to be doing. And so obviously work, family balance, but I'm trying to spend about a good hour a day on the book, which an uninterrupted, focused hour can make a huge difference. And so I think I've polished up the intro now, and then I'm gonna go back to part one when I finish this up. So I wanted to do a chapter in the book about responsibility, which to me is related to justice, the idea of like taking ownership of life, of your own actions, of your own decisions. And this is kind of how my process works. It's kind of cool. I wrote this note card to myself. I must have read this book. It's A. Scott Berg wrote a book about Maxwell Perkins, the editor of Fitzgerald. I mean, this is before I even started using these note cards. So this note card is probably 7 years old, 8 years old, and it's about this story about how, as a young man, Maxwell Perkins watches a friend nearly drown. And he takes from this idea that he says, the lesson I learned from this is to never refuse a responsibility. And I don't have the book on me because I'm here on vacation, but I wrote page 28, Maxwell Perkins' book, and I pull it up, and this is just the fucking most perfect story that I could have possibly found. Like, this is the story that I want to tell in the book. And you write these notes to yourself. Some of them turn out to be nothing, and some of them turn out to be exactly what you needed, even though you could not have possibly conceived of needing it when you wrote it. And that's just the part of the process that I love so much. My forward momentum is the most important thing. I have a lot of forward momentum right now. So I'm gonna mark these to come back to later in sort of a pseudo editing, refining, polishing phase. But for now, I wanna keep the momentum going, which is writing new stuff, generative stuff. So I think momentum's the most important thing, right? If you get bogged down in the weeds, if you edit while you write, someone once told me, you get stuck up. There's even a thing in the Bible, he says, don't look behind you as you plow, because the horse will veer in going forward. That's kind of how I think about it. I don't want to be too concerned with what I have to do behind me, how it's been going behind me. I want to think about where I'm going next. So I've been away quite a bit as I've been on vacation, and then I travel, and then I did a speaking gig. So I've been away. I'm getting caught up on the calendar, the Daily Stoic calendar, which I have. And it's just a reminder, like the days, they fly by. They fly by when you're working, right? You lose track of time, which is a wonderful experience when you're working on a book. But also, to me, it's a reminder, the Stoics talk about memento mori. It's a reminder that you can lose precious days, weeks, months, go by like that if you're not careful, if you're not showing up every day, if you're not doing the work. You look up and a year's gone by and you're not really any closer to finishing. That's what happens if you're not present, if you're not disciplined, if you're not organized, if you don't have a system, if you structure, if you're not dedicated. That's what happens. It's a reminder to me as this time goes by, that's time I'll never get back. So what do I have to show for it? I have the wonderful experiences with my family, I have some relaxation, but I also got pages. I made positive contributions on the project. I moved the ball forward. I developed some momentum, and that's the most important thing on any big project like a book. So I've really been struggling with the title for the new book. When I started the project, I was thinking "And Justice for All," but what I really don't like about that is it's not telling you what to do. And more importantly, it perpetuates something that I try to address in the intro of the book, is this draft of the intro of the book, which is that when we think justice, we think the legal system, we think how government treats people, we think of this large expanse of things. We don't necessarily think about what we do, how we act as human beings, and our sort of everyday actions and decisions. When I think of virtue for the Stoics, or the virtue of justice, I think they meant more like do the right thing. That's something Marcus Aurelius says. He says, just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter. And I was just writing this note card to myself. I wrote, right thing, right now. And I don't know, there's a part of me that I think that might be the title. Like, that's tattoo worthy, that's a command, it's got an alliteration to it. It's not quite like courage is calling or discipline is destiny. It's not like the word is blank, but in some ways it's almost better. So, you never know where these breakthroughs on titles go. I'm working on this other project for someone right now, and we're like brainstorming these lists and lists and lists of things to hopefully get to a title, and then this random phrase just came to me. So I think right thing, right now. I don't know, I wouldn't be surprised if that's where the book ends up, or something along that line. I mean, obviously you could do just do the right thing, or do the right thing. I don't know, that's not quite it either. Maybe it is, but there's a little breakthrough, and it's coming at the end of August. The book is a little over a third done. I'm moved on to part 2 of the book. So part of the reason can be sometimes rare that you don't know the title at the outset is you don't know the book until you've written it, or you've written a chunk of it. And as the book becomes clearer and clearer to me, what I really feel like this book about justice is really about, it's about doing the right thing, which can include designing a government or a culture or an organization that does the right thing. But really we're talking about you and I doing the right thing, and that's what I want this book to be about, and that may well be the title. I'm in New York to do press for the Discipline book, but I'm in the middle of writing the Justice book, and I wanted to stop here. This is the African Burial Ground Memorial Monument. Thousands of bodies of African slaves were buried here over 100 or so odd years, and then totally forgotten about. Forgotten about not just literally, but forgotten about figuratively as a part of American history. And you can't think about justice in this country without thinking about the profound injustices that have happened here time and time again. And in fact, if you're just right there is a U.S. courthouse. The juxtaposition of this profound injustice and supposedly a hall of justice, right, is there. It's always there. And when you read about these high-minded ideals, it's very easy to get inspired. And I've loved that on the part of writing the book, but then you also have to go to the depths of it. You have to explore the unpleasant parts. You have to explore, this is part of wisdom as well, you have to explore the parts of it that challenge you, that make you deeply uncomfortable. And if you're not seeking out things that make you uncomfortable, that challenge you, you're probably not practicing philosophy or Stoicism, you're not pursuing wisdom, and you're certainly not in pursuit of justice, which I think the Stoics would say in the end is rooted in truth, it's rooted in fact. And so I'm taking a couple minutes just to sit here and meditate on that before I run run and go do media appearances today and tomorrow. It is now September, and writing's going okay, but the number one thing you do when the writing starts to slow down, if you're losing the momentum, to me that's not writer's block, it's that you don't have enough material. And so now it's time to go through some more note cards. These are part 2 note cards, and I just gotta go through them and I'll find the stuff that I need and something to get excited about. It is now mid-September 2022, and the book's going okay. The problem is I just had the busiest week of my life. On Monday I was in Denver, on Tuesday I had a talk here, and then I went and saw Iron Maiden. Wednesday I flew to Las Vegas, then I was in Cerro Gordo, which is a ghost town that I own and another YouTube channel that I've helped build. Then Thursday I was doing interviews in LA. Friday I was doing interviews in LA. Saturday I was here signing books. Today it's Sunday and I'm signing more books. I had one good writing day this week. I did some reading, which was good while I was traveling, but on Tuesday I got like maybe 2 hours in. It is extremely hard to write when you're also marketing another book. And the way this schedule is worked out, it's as I am putting one book out into the world, the other one needs to be written, and there's not enough time and not enough hours in the day, and that's been the grind. And it's not just a grind, like it wasn't just hard to be away from my family and stuff. The hard part is I love writing, I love working on this book, and I just haven't had the time. So I'm here on Sunday, very understanding wife and kids, trying to play a little bit of catch up, do a little bit of work, going through some note cards, so that when I come back tomorrow and the kids are in school and I've got more or less a full day, I can make up for some lost time, which is really how I feel. I'm trying to remind myself, speaking of discipline, that I set the pace, the book does not set the pace. The deadlines are important, but they are also illusions. But I also want to be fair to the other people involved in the process. I want to be fair to the work, don't want to cheat it, and I really enjoy doing it, and so I have to be better at making time. I have to be better at saying no, or I'm just not going to get over the finish line. And I have a chapter in this book about justice isn't just acts of charity, it's also like doing the work that you're meant to do and having a positive impact through that work. And I have to remember that when I am saying yes to stuff, and I have a sign here on my wall that says no for a reason. When I'm saying yes to stuff, I am cheating the stuff that matters, both my family and the work. It's not an exaggeration to say that there is an injustice in that, because the book that someone buys won't be as good as it could be, but more importantly, it won't necessarily get to the truth of the idea, the philosophy that I care so much about, and I've got to get there. It's coming a little sooner than I wanted it to, but I got an email from my publisher this morning. She said it's already time to begin working up the covers. The original working title when I sold it was Just Do the Right Thing, but I don't think that's going to be the title of the book. And she said, do you have a final title and subtitle that you can share? And as it happens, I wrote this down on a note card. Hang on. I wrote down a potential title on a note card. Right Thing, Right Now. And so I said, I'm not there yet, but I'm leaning towards Right Thing Right Now. And she said, they just want something that's in the ballpark of the working title for design, which is going to begin next week on the 28th. And so I gave her Right Thing Right Now, Justice in an Unjust World. It's not perfect, it's not exactly what I want, or maybe it will become exactly what I want, but as it happens, I'm actually working on this chapter right now, Right Thing Right Now, which I'm building around Jimmy Carter. So I was probably halfway through the book before this idea popped to me, and before I even wanted to tackle the subject matter exactly, but here we are. And you never know where the title, the packaging, all of it will end up, but you got to start somewhere. In the discipline book, I talked about not being a perfectionist. Let me try this on, walk around in it, see how I think. It may well end up being the title of the book. Well, it is November and officially sweater weather, and I am in the middle of part 3 now. I've written a couple of the chapters, and I am now just going back through my note cards to start. I have a good sense of what chapters I have to do left, so I know who the main character of part 3 is going to be. I'm going to write about Gandhi. Now that I have a better sense of where I'm going, I can go back through the cards and start to get a sense of where they're all going to go and use all this material that the weird part is I've found stuff as I've been writing, and it's like, okay, I like this, but it doesn't work for part 1. Maybe it'll work for part 2. I'm like writing part 2 and I love it, and I go, but still I can't use it. Now I'm running out of runway, and so I'm starting to think about how I want to use all this stuff. But I wouldn't say I feel like I'm on the downhill of the book, but I feel like I know what this book is, I know where it's going, and I know that if I don't stop in the next few months, I will get to the end of a first draft, which is a really good feeling, especially considering where I was, 6 or so months ago, wondering if I, needed to ask for more time, if I was going to have to push this whole thing a year. So I'm chugging away. Well, it's almost Thanksgiving. The book is going along well, but I hit a hiccup today because yesterday I was playing basketball in Austin, and I'm pretty sure I broke 1 or 2 of my fingers, and it is going to make typing a little bit strange. It's actually funny, on Trust Me I'm Lying, I was riding my bike and I fell and I broke my elbow, and it kept me out for about 6 weeks. So I'm left-handed, so I couldn't type. I had a bunch of notes that I was supposed to do this week. I'm almost done with this long book about Gandhi, and I have to transfer all of it to note cards into the book. That is not going to happen. I'm going to try to do a little bit more editing today because the editing requires less finger mobility. But actually, the first thing I'm going to do today is look at the covers. Let me show you this. Megan is the editor's assistant, and she sent me Right Thing Right Now covers. These are the mock-ups. Right now the title is Right Thing Right Now, which I like. I don't know if I want this comma in there. So there's these are supposed to be the scales of justice, I guess. I like that one. So I guess the big thing is gonna be the color scheme. So discipline was blue, courage was red. What color do you do for justice? What about green? Green could be a cool color. Well, it is December 2022, and it took longer than I thought or expected, but I have finished the Gandhi section. I printed it out. It's 7,500 words, which is way longer than I want it to be, but it is done. So I'm kind of maybe 1 chapter left to do here in the book. I want to do one on what Gandhi actually calls the Great Oneness, or about sort of part 3 of the book, that we're all this sort of interconnected entity, as the Stoics would say. This idea of sympatheia, or mutual interdependence. So I got that to do, and then I'm going to send this thing in to the publisher, which is just unbelievable for me to say. But then look, I got to show you, I had some new covers. The publisher sent me some covers that I have to look at. I like that. I think I like that. So they did it as a silver, which I think is pretty cool, especially if it was shiny. That's pretty fucking sick. I think silver's it, man. When I wrote The Daily Stoic 8 years ago, I had this crazy idea that I would just keep it going. The book was 366 meditations, but I'd write 1 more every single day and I'd give it away for free as an email. I thought maybe a few people would sign up. Couldn't have even comprehended a future in which 750,000 people would get this email every single day, and would for almost a decade. If you want to get the email, if you want to be part of a community that is the largest group of Stoics ever assembled in human history, I'd love for you to join us. You can sign up and get the email totally for free, no spam. You can unsubscribe whenever you want at dailystoic.com/email.